Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our second video on basic economic concepts. This is part 2 of chapter 1. I am Miss Jennifer Blank, and I will be your guide on this journey. So this lesson, we're going to focus on the economizing problem, the factors of production, and the economic perspective. Thinking economically means thinking a bit differently, and once you get the hang of it, it's actually very easy and very simple and makes a whole lot of sense. But sometimes at first it feels a little bit counterintuitive, so we're going to go over that and make sure we're all on the same page. All right, so like we talked about in the previous lesson, we talked about scarce resources, the concept of scarcity, okay? The fact that we have unlimited wants and needs, but our resources for fulfilling those needs and wants is limited, right? Because we don't have unlimited stuff to fill all that. So economic resources are what we use to fulfill our wants and needs. And what are economic resources? Well, they're all natural, human, and manufactured resources that go into the production of goods and services. That's what economic resources are, all right? And there are 4 categories, resource categories. We call them factors of production. I mentioned this also in the previous lesson. Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial ability. And we're going to talk about all 4 of those things. All 4 are essential for an economic system to function properly. So, what's entrepreneurship? Well, it's a combination of, this person is a business owner or a business creator, right? They combine resources that create new goods and services. They assemble and use all of the other factors, all right? Land is everything physical, other than human beings, which is not the result of human effort. All right, that's within the economic definition of land. Basically, raw materials. All right, labor is all human exertion in the production of goods and services. It's the work that we do. And then capital has 2 kinds. There's physical capital and there's human capital. This does not mean money. Capital does not mean money in this context. Money is financial capital, okay? So there's a bunch of different types of capital in economics, and this is what I mean where some things like we assume capital, oh, that's money. No, you can't assume that. You know, I know I said last lesson we have to make assumptions in economics, but you have to be careful with some of these definitions, okay? Capital in this context does not mean money. Capital are human-made resources that are used to produce goods and services. So like a hammer is an example of physical capital, but my master's degree is an example of my human capital. It's my experience, it's my knowledge, my credentials. That allows me to be more effective, whereas maybe the computer that I use could be termed physical capital. All right, so here's some examples. So human economic value of employee skill set. All right, so they can increase the value, employers can do this by investing in the following: professional development, additional education, or additional experience. Physical, as I said, human-made objects used to produce other goods and services, machines, tools, books. All right, so that's the key difference, but you have to know both, because without both of those things, an economy isn't going to function. So here's an example. I apologize for anyone who may be watching this and is not from Miami Arts Charter School, but I teach at Miami Arts Charter School, so that's what we're going with as my example. So we have scarce resources, right? And those resources are economic resources, and that's all of what's listed below. So land, this is the building where the building is that we rent for the school. It's on top of the land. Labor would be the teachers, administrative staff, administration, custodial staff. Capital would be textbooks, students, paper, computers. And the entrepreneurial ability comes from Mr. and Mrs. De La Rosa, right? So our product is graduates. We graduate wonderful, wonderful people who go on to do wonderful, wonderful things. But the students, as students, you're still capital. We're taking what you are and making you into something else, all right? Hopefully something better, right? So this is an example of how factors of production operate. Now, this is a graphic. I got this from a textbook, but I thought it was an interesting little graphic. It's pretty self-explanatory. Feel free to pause the video and just take a look and walk yourself through it. If you have questions about it, ask me in class. There's the continuation of that same graphic, so feel free to pause it and take a look. So the economic perspective, scarcity and choice, I can't overemphasize this enough. I'm telling you, you must understand scarcity and choice or else it's going to be a really long semester, okay? Now, this is an interesting concept. That no such thing as a free lunch, right? We talked about this. That's Hinstoffel. Someone somewhere is paying for what you just got for free. And then opportunity costs. To obtain more of one thing, society forgoes the opportunity of getting the next best thing. This sacrifice is the opportunity cost of the choice. Now, I'm going to give you practice problems in class to make sure that you actually understand what opportunity cost is. Opportunity cost is in everything you give up. So if your option is to study, sleep, or eat, and you, instead of studying, you choose to sleep, your opportunity cost is the next best thing you could be doing. Okay? It's not all of those things you could be doing. It's the next best thing. So the economic perspective is all about purposeful behavior. All right? People tend to think that things are random. They're not. Not in economics. They're not random or chaotic. There's a rationale behind the choice. It may be bad. It may be stupid, in fact. Like, you may be looking at a very stupid person making a stupid choice. But they have a rationale. It may be flawed, but there is reasoning happening as to why they did what they did. Rational self-interest, this idea that I am acting in my own interest, does not equal selfishness. Not in the sense that we think it does. Just because you are acting in your own self-interest does not mean that you are selfish and never think about others. Okay, rational self-interest is not equal to selfishness. We will explore this concept more in class. And utility is part of purposeful behavior. The pleasure, happiness, or satisfaction obtained from consuming a good or service. So these are key characteristics of the economic perspective. And again, I wanted to remind you of this definition. We saw this in the previous video lesson. Economics looks at how individuals, institutions, and society make choices because the stuff that people want or need is only available in limited amounts. It's very important that we remember that. And that is the end of part 2. I hope you learned what you needed to, and I will see you next time.